I am Justin Torrey, Marine Corps veteran, former professional fighter, and president of Operation Veteran Vacation.
Okay, so we want to kick this off and ask you, what was your life like prior?
I'm from Ludlow, Massachusetts, and as a child, had a pretty rough childhood, moved around a lot, went to 13 different schools in 12 years, a lot of fighting, a lot of being on my own. I left home at 12, kind of in and out of the house after that, but mostly living on my own. Graduated high school up in Vermont with honors and was my class president. And I started working right away. You know, as a kid, it was kind of a rough situation. So I've had a job since I was 14 and always doing something. But I ended up having some issues with substance that got in the way throughout my life. I was lucky enough to walk into a mixed martial arts gym at 14 years old, and a coach took a liking to me, and he realized I was talented and he wanted to keep me around. So I'd run to the gym every day and help teach class. That's how I paid for it, was teaching the kids classes. I trained there for years. Matter of fact, to this day, this will be 27 years, I still train there. It was an awesome experience. I had my first mixed martial arts fight at 17 years old, which I did very well in one. Yeah, it was kind of a tough childhood, but in the end, I think it taught me perseverance, but always left me with a feeling of the lack there of closeness, or not feeling like I had family at times. You know, and the thing with the Marine Corps is it provided that for me. You know, I found my brothers in arms, and that was really a big change for me.
You once said that you were from Vermont, right?
I finished school in Vermont. I'm from Ludlow.
Okay, good. And attended some tournaments. Was that in Vermont or after?
No, that was here in Massachusetts. I had my first grappling event or jiu-jitsu tournament. I was 14 years old. I'd been training for 9 months. And I competed in the adult advanced division. Yeah, and I was doing really well. I was in second, third. Nobody could tap me out. I was pretty aggressive, though, you know, and I think that was something that paid well for me, is I came forward no matter what.
During your school, you had a teacher that used to pick you up, make sure you got to school?
So when I moved up to Vermont, I met some really wonderful people, and I got sent up there to live with my father. In that situation didn't work out for, I think I lived there for maybe 4 or 5 months, and he left me in an apartment by myself. I continued to go to school, and when my teachers found out, they were so supportive, right? I had a principal, Mr. Bill Alberti, who had me teach jiu-jitsu after school, and I had another teacher by the name of Carl Miller, who actually is also a veteran. And this man would not let me skip school. If I didn't show up, he would come to my house and say, "Get in the car, I'm bringing you to school right now." You know, and people like that, and really taught me some lessons in life. And I think that I reflect on a lot of those relationships with my principal, my teacher, and my coach. And I kind of look at that as like what teaches me to be a parent today sometimes.
Nice. After your graduation, you made a decision along the line to join the Marines?
Yes, sir.
Age?
21.
21. And can you tell us a little bit how that progressed?
I've always wanted to be in the military. That was something I always wanted to do. I longed for that structure and that intensity, and it was like a calling, right? Like I was training all the time anyways, and you know, life wasn't going great. Like I said, I've had some substance use issues in the past, and I thought that I needed some more discipline in my life, and what better place to get it than the Marine Corps. It was a wonderful experience, to be honest with you. Although like boot camp was tough, given like my childhood and that I was constantly training, it was pretty normal for me. And I loved it. You know, obviously I didn't love everything about boot camp. Nobody likes to be screamed at or, you know what I mean, told what to eat. But I enjoyed the camaraderie, and I felt like I found the place that I belonged. You know, I was a reservist, so when I came home, I went back to fighting, which was I had a very promising career. And it wasn't long before I was shipped off to Iraq. I was in Fallujah, Iraq in 2006 with Charlie 125. And, you know, we lost some people, and we lived in a front line in a building called the CMOC in Fallujah. And I still have some nightmares. I still have some unhappy thoughts and dreams, and I don't watch military movies. And my time in service, although difficult, the relationships that I formed, I think, is what I take away from it, like the biggest value. And those relationships with, my brothers and sisters, and some of which did not make it home, it was something that I had longed for, and it was something that I always have felt a need to do something for, to be a part of. Even though my military service is done, I still feel like this pull towards wanting to be part of the military culture. And, as today, like I work with veterans on a normal basis, either with Operation Veteran Vacation, or I'm also a veteran and first responder case manager at Swift River Recovery. So I work with veterans in recovery, which makes a lot of sense for me,
Just a question, just to touch base before we leave the basic training part. They apparently recognized you and know who you are. They found out you were in jiu-jitsu, and didn't you have to kind of fight the drill instructors a little bit?
So when I was in boot camp, yes. When I was in boot camp, when I first got there, our senior drill instructor had told us that he was a black belt and that he was going to teach us how to tie a man into a pretzel, I believe was his exact words. And I was super excited because I had been training for years, and I was already a professional fighter. I was already getting paid for it. I was already ranked in the state of Massachusetts. Come towards the end, I think we were on the Crucible, and we were loading up foot lockers, and I'm standing up on a 7-ton, and somebody slides a foot locker, and it hits me in the chest. And I fall off, and as I hit the ground, the drill instructor comes to, knife hand drill instructor me and yell at me. And I was already doing a back roll and right on my feet. And he said, Torrey, how did you just do that? And I told him that I was a brown belt in jiu-jitsu and that I was a professional fighter. And his next comment was, "What do you think you can take senior drill instructor?" And I said, "Of course I can." And, he, as normal, got a bit excited, right? As we know, drill instructors to be. And a couple days later, it was at the end of the Crucible. My senior drill instructor came up and whispered in my ear, and he said, "Oh, so Torrey, you can beat me?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I can." And they're like, "All right, okay." So he didn't say much after that. He got left alone till the very end of boot camp, and he had called for everybody to come sit on the mats. So as soon as this happened, I said, "Sir, does senior drill instructor still want to grapple recruit Torrey?" And he was like, "Oh, absolutely, let's go." So I went out and I faced him and I tapped him out probably 3 times in 3 minutes, maybe even less. I think it was shorter. Wow. So then he went and got some drill instructors from other floors, because he was an instructor outside of the Marine Corps. He had his own school where he taught the other drill instructors there. So they all came up and I got to grapple them and tap out all my other drill instructors. I was pretty excited. I think everybody was pretty excited to see that. And then my senior drill instructor the last day came up to me and gave me his black belt. So yeah, that was pretty cool moment for me. And then they pulled me in their office and they're like, who are you? Went through about all these other fighters that I knew and that were at the time like on television, and they were pretty excited at that point. But time was up there and I was about to leave. So
okay, when you were in Fallujah, did you continue to do that kind of fighting?
So when I was in Fallujah, when we were in the CMOC, I stuffed a sea bag filled with sheets and old clothes and then hung it from the ceiling in one of the rooms. And so I continued to hit the bag every day that I could, and I taught some other guys while we were there in combat.
You weren't in Fallujah very long, were you?
7 months.
7 months. What happened after you left for Fallujah and came back to the States?
Came back to the States. We spent some time in California in the back of Camp Pendleton. Trying to readjust back to life. The adjustment was difficult. It was easier to be this always trying to be safe, always trying to be on guard. And when we went back there, was, alcohol was quickly introduced, and, that was a way for me to numb any feelings that I had and not really have to deal with them. I mean, you know, I enjoyed being with my brothers, but like there wasn't a lot of therapy type moments where we were getting better mentally, emotionally at that point. I think we were just kind of trying to relax and decompress. But it didn't happen completely. You know, by the time I got home, I still was not sleeping much, really feeling anxious a lot, waking up in the middle of the night and in the hallway or wherever. You know, loud noises have never been a friend of mine, right? So when I got back home, I pretty much buried myself in the gym, in fighting, in training. And, you know, at times I wasn't sleeping and I was going to the gym twice a day and, you know, it was 6 to 8 hours a day of training. And it was just, it kept my mind busy, but alcohol and eventually drugs slowly snuck back into my life. And so I came home in 2006, 2007, right before 2007, I believe we came home. 2008, I was the number one 170 and 185 for mixed martial arts in New England. Some rankings had me as the number one unsigned fighter in the United States by 2009. And, you know, I had every opportunity. When I came back, I ended up going, I didn't ever have the MOS, so I wasn't legitimately a scout sniper, but I was in the scout sniper platoon and trained with them for my last 2 years from 2008 to 2010. And I loved it. You know, my whole life was spent in combat, whether it was in the gym or whether I was taking my weekends out. And that's just like, that was my whole being. That was everything that I was to me. And eventually got somebody pregnant within that time. And then I went out to try out for the Ultimate Fighter television show. I know I should tell this story. So I went to California, and this was the second time that I had tried out for the Ultimate Fighter. The first time they cut my weight class. You know, and drugs and alcohol, they ran my life. So I got drunk and did something crazy and beat in a trash can in front of 300 people. And so when I came back to try out, they were like, hey, this guy's going to be great TV, right? So I came back and I did the grappling part and got a standing ovation from the crowd and the other fighters. And then I went to hit pads, and Dana White walked out of the back, and he said, Torrey, I know who you are. Just sit down. Don't worry about it. So I'm thinking I'm a shoo-in, and then I go and sit in front of the camera, and they're like, oh, well, we remember you. Don't worry, you're good. So, you know, I'm on top of the world, right? I've got my girlfriend's almost 9 months pregnant at this point. In like a part of the Scout Sniper platoon, but I haven't been to school yet, but I'm still training with them. My fighting career is like taking off. I'm undefeated. I don't know how to deal with those things, right? Like, I've never been very good at dealing with those kind of emotions. So my answer was always to drink. And it wasn't probably 6-7 hours before I was in LA County Jail. That was an interesting trip. I got in a fight with two larger gentlemen. Police were called, and so those dreams eventually kind of got shattered of being on the show because I had an open case. And at this point, I'm about to get out of the Marine Corps. Wasn't long after that I did get out of the Marine Corps, and felt lost.
When you were discharged, you originally told me a story about manufacturing a firearm. What happened?
All right, so yes, in 2009, I was charged with manufacturing a firearm, otherwise known as an incendiary device, technically a Molotov cocktail. Wasn't put in jail till 2013, though. This is when they had first come to me with this. Actually, they first came to me with this in like 2008. And eventually, the federal government, the U.S. Marshals actually decided to kick open my door. I wasn't home at the time, but needless to say, my girlfriend was not happy with me. I had to turn myself in, and I did some time in federal prison.
You said that those federal marshals were famous for something else.
Oh, so the federal marshals had told me that they were the same federal marshals that arrested Whitey Bulger. And, yeah. Yes, it was me next, I guess.
At this point, you were what age?
27 maybe.
Okay. So after you got discharged, at some point you decided to start a nonprofit organization?
So I got discharged, and there was a lot leading up to that. I had went up to stay at the post-traumatic stress program. You know, after I got out of jail, I still had difficulties. I was on probation for another 3 years, and I just kept thinking like I could handle my substance use on my own, which I have discovered I cannot. So as time went on, I started to lose fights. I hadn't lost any fights before that. I had another child, and I guess what the first thing was that happened when I got out of jail is I thought, I was gonna go find somebody who was like me, who had difficulties like me, because most of the women I dated up to that point were very normal in normal homes, and they weren't alcoholic, right? So I found a fellow alcoholic, and I thought that was gonna be a good idea. And it wasn't. It's crazy, I know, but it wasn't a good idea. So, I would say we fed each other in many negative ways for years. And, I lost a fight and really started to fall apart. And my relationship with my coach had went way downhill. I didn't show up to practice when I was supposed to, and I didn't do what he asked me to do. And I was unstable and not sleeping a lot and really just not doing well. And I think he was very disappointed in me for when I went to jail. I think that kind of stuck him. He's always been like a big brother to me. So I think he was, kind of hurt by my behavior. And our relationship suffered, which also caused me to suffer in the gym. And, eventually she left. To this day, I have a beautiful 8-year-old daughter with her, who I have I have full custody of right now. So I can't ever be sorry about that relationship, right? There was a lot of hurt, a lot of rough things, but daddy's little girl that follows me everywhere and does everything with me is something that's life-changing stuff, right? But I had realized throughout all of this, having kids and having these difficulties with that time bonding with them and realizing like I wanted to do things different than how I grew up, I really struggled. I struggled to make that connection at times, even though I tried really hard. And it wasn't until I got sober that things started to really change. So I've now been sober for 2.5 years, and it's been amazing. I'm my daughter's favorite person. My son loves to hang out with dad. Mm-hmm. So he's 14, he actually likes to hang out with me, right? And I get to show up as the man that I always needed, which is big for me. And in that process of being a father and being a veteran and being alcoholic and seeing this crazy life as a child, I realized as a veteran, a lot of my mental health suffers from the disconnection of my family. When I can't connect with them, when I can't give them things that they can enjoy, when I can't be a part of their life in a way, we all suffer as a family. And that really inspired me to start Operation Veteran Vacation. And I saw the value in, something simple as camping. I saw how I could let down my guard a little bit, right? I could be a little calmer, and the kids had a better time with me. And I thought to myself, man, this would be so much better if I had my fellow veterans with me, because I know that I'm also calmer when I'm around my fellow veterans. And I said, man, I could do this for other people. I could help people in this way. And I guess that's kind of the start of Operation Veteran Vacation.
Mm-hmm. Good. Excellent. How's it progressing today?
Much busier than I can handle at times. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. A lot going on, a lot of really cool stuff. Very proud to be able to help people, and very proud to be able to offer the things that we do. We have Meditation in Motion, which is a kickboxing and meditation program. We have the camping program, which is, love that. About to get started there. Already been up to the campground this year. And then we have another program that we're going to bring in soon called Nurturing Fathers, which is a group, a father group that people meet and talk about being a father. And I think it's really the culmination of my life experience, right? The good and the bad, and how I got through the hard parts, right? And how I can share that with others. And Although it's very busy, it's super rewarding, and I really love what I do.